Hello and welcome to Eyes on Issues, coming to you live on Spectrum Television. It's another interesting day for us to talk the different issues bothering Nigeria as a larger society. My name is Frank Zidet. I'm excited to welcome you to today's edition of Eyes on Issues, and today we will be looking at the trending issues surrounding the presidential and National Assembly elections, which took place last Saturday, precisely on the 25th of February 2023. And Nigerians took out to the polls to about a march to vote for their preferred candidate across the top contenders across the 18 recognized political parties. And yes, in as much as there has been argument back and forth about the top contending members and the political parties, the issues that have arisen from the just concluded presidential and National Assembly elections cannot be swept on the carpet, particularly as it has generated a lot of reactions across Nigeria. And of course, the international society have also reacted. Now, precisely in February 2022, President Muhammadu Buhari finally signed the much awaited and somewhat controversial Electoral Act into law. And shortly after that was signed into law, Nigerians reacted. And of course, as Nigerians reacted to the different provisions of the electoral law, one of the key things that we had from the electoral law that Nigerians had concluded will restore the hope of the Nigerian society on the electoral umpire was the provision of the electronic uploading and transfer of result. That, of course, is beside the early release of election funds to INEC in Section 3, Subsection 3 of the Electoral Act 2022, which provides that funds for general elections must be released at least 1 year before the election. Under the repealed Electoral Act number 26/2010, the disbursement of funds for the election shall be made in accordance with rules set out by the Commission. The provisions also stated out early conduct of party primaries and submission of candidates lists by virtue of Section 29, Subsection 1 of the Electoral Act 2022. Political parties were also enjoined to submit the list of candidates not later than 180 days before the date appointed for the general elections. Now, we move away from that to another very critical point that was highlighted within the Electoral Act, that is the issue of legitimization of the e-voting and transmission of result. Sections 47 and 50, subsection 2 of the Electoral Act 2022 gives legal backing for use of smart card readers, electronic accreditation of voters, and any other voter accreditation technology that INEC deploys. Not just that, it also gave legal backing to the electronic transmission of result, as INEC now has the power to determine the manners of transmission of result. Now, these were the key provisions that Nigerians took up and held within the folds of the heart, which also has been attributed or has been pointed as being the reason why Nigerians troop out en masse for the 2023 presidential and National Assembly elections. But shortly after the elections on the 25th of February, Nigerians woke up to the glitch on the INEC IREV, that's the INEC result portal, where the designated INEC officials at the respective polling units were unable to transmit directly from the polling units the respective result of their units to the INEC portal, which of course is one thing that Nigerians and INEC had repeatedly told Nigerians will be able to help curb the compromises that Nigerians have registered and recorded in the previous elections held across Nigeria. Today we will be looking at the 2023 presidential and National Assembly elections, INEC, the Electoral Act and implementation, and of course the reactions of Nigerians and the international society. Today also joining me to help us navigate this very interesting issue that is affecting us as Nigerians and is threatening the peace and stability of Nigeria is Comrade Victor Onomo, who is a journalist and also public policy analyst. Welcome to Eyes on Issues.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brian Francis. It's good to be back on Spectrum. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. Good to have you back. All right, let's quickly look at Akwa Ibom. Let's start from Akwa Ibom State. Yesterday, the state coalition officer made an announcement through the INEC at the INEC headquarters at the Doma here in Akwa Ibom State, where the different figures, vote tallies of the respective political parties were rolled out to Akwa Ibomites, and of course that is expected to be given at the national level. We'll just take a few a video of that announcement and then take reactions of the different party agents who were at that scene, and then we'll come back to Eyes on Issues to discuss the different issues arising from that announcement. Stay with us.
357,418. 2,357,418. Number of accredited voters 594,450. 594,450. I will give you the total votes for each party. For party A, 860. 860. For party AA, 289. 289. For party AAC, 626. 626. For party ADC, 2,265. 2265. For party ADP, 811. 811. Party APC, 160,620. 160,620. For party APGA, 783. 783. For party APM, 599. 599. For party APP, 325. 325. For party BP, 524. 524. For party LP, 132,683. 132,683. For party NNPP, 7,796. 7796.
Now, the bottom line is that the People's Democratic Party gathered the highest vote in Akwa Ibom State. And shortly after the announcement was made, the Labour Party, the NNPP, and APC, of course, expressed their standpoint as far as the election results were concerned. Let's take those reactions.
A returning officer to come with two result sheets. Which one are we going to take? And which one do we get? And that is the problem. If they are coming by 10 o'clock and tell us that the party is for 10,000, and by 12 o'clock they are coming with a corrected version that it is 9,000, what confidence are we going to have in the system? No. That if there should be a time error by INEC or their staff, it should not affect the parties because we will not accept it. There is no way we will accept it. And I complained earlier that in Ogun where I come from, that so many units will not have been resulted. And when I mentioned that, I didn't even know that it was not about this. But at the end of the day, the egos knows what is going on. So I want to say that most of them were not in the field.
I'm not comfortable with the result. What I experienced is that it's like they are denied the obedient people in Akwa State the right. Right from the ward, I have so many complaints, right from the unit, so many complaints, right from the chapter, so many complaints, even here. And this is started, let me give you an example with what is going on in INEC. Look at this staff, we have 4,354 agents. And we send the complete passports, the complete names to INEC. At the end of it, out of the lot, decided to give about 1,990 something. What about the other agents? And the time was very, very short. And there's no way we can produce this. You get to the agent will get to their different units, get into the unit. What they say is that, what is your attack? They say, I don't have attack. Okay, go away. You cannot be agent. Whereas this thing is being denied by INEC. It was enough time. So from this is where everything starts, and we know what's going on. So I totally reject that result.
I stand here to express shock over the character and the presence of electoral officers and returning officers. Today, I will stand to say that the outing across the Akwa Ibom State, all the EOs and the returning officers have really surprised Akwa Ibomites, because today they have performed below the human character, what is expected of them. Howbeit it is an eye-opener, but we have our position and definitely will communicate our positions to INEC, because we do not want to allow any of this to be swept under the carpet. So to me, my summation word is it was completely full of fraud. The figures were not tallying, and everything indicates that results were written from somewhere, which is quite contrary to the fact that we were told that once it is being uploaded in the exported into the beavers, that becomes the saving grace. But after exportation, what we later have as importation is not what actually happened in various voting units. So therefore, we pause it here, but the question will continue to ask. And this is the position of my party. Our faith in INEC and the conduct of this election is highly threatened. To me, I would say it's 90% threatened. That's my position. Thank you.
From what I observed about the just concluded election is that, in fact, we cannot really say that.
Those are reactions from members of the respective political parties who trooped out en masse to the Udodoma INEC office where the announcements were made. Let me come to you, Mr. Victor, at this point in time. I'm sure you must have seen the different pictures, footages of people and the standpoint. How would you react to the fact that despite INEC assuring Nigerians that the electronic transmission of results will be employed during the just concluded presidential and national assembly election, and indeed for all of the election, just like we saw in Osun State, the reverse is the case?
Well, what we've just seen is that is an indication that all is not well with the process. But what I want to tell Nigerians is that the election itself, the element of credibility, the element of shock, there are so many things happening, because when you find a situation where you have found sitting governors lose election in their domain, their bid to go to the Senate, we have seen a lot of that happen. We have seen areas predominantly dominated by certain parties being taken over by another. And at that instance, for instance, now you see Al Makura in Adamawa lost to a relatively unknown SDP, and you can see in Cross River State, Ben Ayade lost to the PDP even as a sitting governor. So the only problem we've had with this result is that we expected, they're not about the result per se, because on 21st of August 2022, INEC did say they were going to have manual collation of results, but then there was going to be electronic transmission of accredited voters. But what has really happened now, I was in my unit to vote in the election. I actually voted, but I was shocked that the accredited voters were not immediately transmitted. And when I asked them what's the problem, they said it was network. I looked at the Beaver and I saw 3G network full. Why it wasn't transmitted, I don't know. I thought it was just for that unit. I had to go to another unit. I continued going from unit to unit. But what I think people should do is that, as at that point, what I did was take the photograph of the beavers and the accredited voters as handled by the INEC official while also waiting, because at that unit where I voted, he recorded 91 accredited voters and I asked him to drop the beavers. It wasn't a problem. All the agents agreed. He dropped the beavers and we'll take the photograph of accredited voters. Now, that is what we expect party agents to do, because if you don't compromise the party agent at that particular point, if you get the accredited number of voters, then you also get your original result. I think the mystery behind inflation of numbers could be unraveled. But what we want Nigerians to do is that we want that point where you have patriotic Nigerians who love this country, who stand, who are given to do a job, and they do that job faithfully. Because what we really see now, Mr. Francis, is that if where the election favors a particular party, I'm talking about reactions of the party agent, where the results favor them, they clap. The state where the result did not favor them, they said there was rigging. Where Labour Party won, there was no rigging. Where Labour Party did not win, there was rigging. Where PDP won, there was no rigging to the PDPians. Where the PDP lose, there was rigging. Where the APC won, there was no rigging. Where the APC lost, there was rigging. So the only way to unravel this is to, the INEC must learn. If there's one thing INEC, though I listened to some excuses, those excuses, well, I wouldn't take that as an excuse, but they also said that there were a lot of cyber attack on their site and because on the portal.
Before now, they had said they had witnessed some cyber attacks during the Osun elections. And that was why they invested millions into securing that space. So coming out to tell Nigerians at this point there were still cyber attacks, when they had guaranteed Nigerians they had taken proactive measures to ensure no cyber space or no cyber attack, no hacker can lay access to the INEC portal. Don't you think is that inexcusable?
That is a question only INEC can answer. How they got attacked, what led to the attack, it's what they should explain to Nigerians. But I'm telling Nigerians that if you hold your breath at a polling unit, you get the accredited number of voters, the incident could be unraveled. Whatever led to rigging, wherever the result got changed, can be. And we also want to tell chief executives of state and INEC commissioners to allow the process to flow. But my warning to Nigerians is that let us follow it gradually. Let us also follow by the law, even though a lot of people have lost confidence in the judiciary, but let us still follow and exhaust all processes that resort to violence or call for violence. Well, definitely violence is not something we want to resort to at this point. But just while you were making your standpoint, there has been this assumption across the streets of Nigeria that at some locations, strategic locations, that politicians, incumbency, with the power of incumbency, politicians who have a way with all, systematically just decided to, lose out at those polling units, at those respective states, just to give grounds to other places they might have compromised elections. Do you agree with this standpoint? No, the way some politicians love, the way I know Nigerian politicians to lose power, I don't think they want to lose on their own. I don't think...
well, there can be a new twist to it.
I don't think with all amount of joy, people like Ben Ayade would not want to go to the Senate. Al Makura has been out of power for a very long time, and he lost to a relatively unknown Social Democratic Party in Nasarawa State. So I don't think Autumn, with all the pressure, everything that came on Autumn, I don't think ordinarily Autumn would not willingly want to lose election to the APC. I could concede that to Labour Party, but losing to the APC, they've been like cat and dog. I don't think that is possible. But sometimes the people speak. If you also look at the election of 2019, you discover that Benue State, APC narrowly lost in Benue State. So this time, APC, PDP narrowly lost in the same Benue State. So there is that strong factor that strong party factor within the Benue enclave. So saying that some people giving, like you just make me remember what a discussion I had on the street with a friend who said Obi was dash Lagos so that the rest could be taken. Well, I don't know how that happened, but whatever happened, the unit, I also saw videos, to be very candid, I also saw videos where I've looked at certain video, apart from NNPP, among the strong contenders, apart from NNPP, we have seen emerging videos of all the political parties rigging at one point or thumbprinting heavily at one point and or the other. So in that case, even there was something I made on my social media angle today. I said, so we are all guilty. So what we are doing is this: we should allow process. See, these processes are human. If you like, do any technology. There's no technology that is not bad. Elections cannot be conducted by robots. We know that. We are not going to deploy robots to conduct elections. What we really want to have a credible poll, we must have credible Nigerians. We must have Nigerians with integrity who think well of the society, not just thinking well of themselves. But I tell you one thing, my brother, there's no way. As long as the Nigerian political setting is concerned, we have most politicians, not all anyway, are very greedy when it comes to power. So they will do everything to hang on to power. But those sent to deliver the process should be credible. That's why you see the entire blow now going to INEC, because the Nigerians already know that given the ground, every party will want to win their domain. No matter what you think about, they will want to the state ruled by PDP will want to be dominated by PDP. They will deploy all things, because that's what politics will do. They will deploy all antics. So the only saving grace would have been the electoral umpire. So the cry is on why INEC will get so much from the federal government, will be properly funded. Unlike INEC of the past, this particular INEC was properly funded, and we never expected. Even if you don't want, if you want to collect the result manually, at least transmit the accredited voters so that we'll be able to look at the number of voters and know if they vote based on accreditation. Because as it stands now, again, the time it is taking is also very suspicious. Because by the time, like we are talking now, a Rivers State result has not come, other state results have not come. So what do you make of that? Because if it takes so long to bring in the result, it could also take so short to manipulate the result on the way. So that is it, because people will now have to sit back. Whatever you happen, come back, open maybe open the beavers, inflate it, take photograph of people, because most time what Nigerians should also note is that 90% of the accreditation were not done via the fingerprints. They were done by taking photographs, because the fingerprint process in my unit, it failed everybody. So INEC resorted to taking photographs. And when you do all that, what do you expect, or what do you think the process will look like? So that's why people are doubting the process. INEC are not. The fight now is not with the political parties. The fight now is not with ordinary Nigerians. The fight now is how credible is this pool. So to me, INEC, with all the promises they've made, they've not delivered on those promises.
We've been joined by Mr. Harry Udo, who is the state chairman in Akwa Ibom State for Civil Society Organization. Hello, Mr. Harry. Welcome to Eye on Issues. Hello, Mr. Harry.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Mr. Francis.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Eyes on Issues.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Apologies. I think the connectivity has been a bit difficult, but I'm glad that I could join you now.
All right. Glad to know that you're there with us. We're talking about the elections that just took place on Saturday and the challenges and the issues arising from that election. And I'd like to come at you yesterday, we saw in Akwa Ibom State, for instance, the respective political parties stating that they reject the election announcement by the collation officer for Akwa Ibom State, and they gave their reasons. And part of that reason is that the result that their agent at the respective polling unit took photographs of the final collation at the polling unit does not tally with the result that was further given out to them at INEC, which formed the final collation that was uploaded by INEC. Now, one of the things that INEC had told Nigerians was that we were going to have the electronic transmission of result from the respective polling unit, and that informed why Nigerians restored their hope in INEC. Now, as a Nigerian citizen, as a right activist, how would you react to the fact that this was not practiced by INEC as they had told Nigerians?
Yeah, it's quite sad, really saddening and painful, to find that for most of the Nigerians that came out to vote, and we discussed the other day about 39 million youths were registered out of the 87 million voters that were ready to vote, and out of that 26 million of them were students, and these are people who were going to be voting for the very first time. What a letdown, what a disappointment, what a sham. INEC, led by Mahmoud Yakubu, has failed Nigerians woefully. At some point, I'm feeling a bit embarrassed for him. When running up to the elections, one of the things that have shored up, the confidence of Nigerians in the electoral process, don't forget that there's been, over the years, voter apathy. One of the reasons that saw the surge of young people going to register was the confidence with which the INEC chairman, talked about the elections and reposed such confidence in the people. So it's an anticlimax to get to the election day. Voting went on smoothly. Violence, there wasn't widespread violence except in some places, in Lagos State, as televised. Everything went smoothly, and then when it came to announcing the results, the drama began. It's so disappointing. As a Nigerian, I feel ashamed to be a Nigerian at this time, because indeed many have described this election as a watershed for Nigeria. But the expectations of the electorate, the expectations of citizens who looked forward to see that their will and intent counted, have been disappointed again. Let me tell you, every election in Nigeria has been, the margin has only improved from the 2007 fiasco for election that occurred, running to 2011, and then 2015. 2019 was better, better than that of 2015. But coming to this seems to begin to measure with the election of 2007. That was an abysmal failure. So it's quite disappointing to see that this is now the turnout of the elections, where fathers and mothers and children look forward to having their will and intent reflect in the selection of who becomes their leader as the president and as members of the National Assembly.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Harry. Another challenge that Nigerians are saying is that the fact that INEC has failed Nigerians has already begun to incite Nigerians to take to the streets and take to violence. The international community have already spoken and given their standpoints, and of course they've also stated categorically that INEC has failed Nigerians. Looking at the scenario playing out, right now there are two different sets of results flying out. This morning I got winds of some result. A lot of persons, like our guest Victor Noma, has alleged that in his polling unit, for instance, after the accreditation exercise was done, he took photograph of the number of accredited voters. And after the counting of the result, many Nigerians took the liberty of snapping the result sheet at their respective polling unit before they were taken away. Now, one of the key issues that Nigerians are having across the different political parties is that when, for instance, in Akwa Ibom State, when the final collation of result was done, the respective unit where you have seen XYZ number of voters voting for XYZ parties, at the final result, you see some units 0 for a party that scored 200, a party that had 50, the party that had 80. And all of these discrepancies have been mentioned. Now, what are the chances that we will get to have a free, fair, and credible elections, judging from what is happening right now, and Nigerians will actually get to have a president who would represent the overall mandate of the Nigerian people?
Thank you, Francis. You know, Joseph Stalin said that the people that vote don't matter. It is those who count the vote that matter. That's one. Secondly, I just want to leave these two quotes there. When you make peaceful change impossible, you make violent change inevitable. You know, there's been state capture. The current political elites have captured the states. There is state capture. They steal our collective patrimony and then they use it, all right, to suppress and oppress the citizens. And Nigerians have come, and NSAS protests opened the eyes of Nigerians to the massive power that they have to force the change that they need. So I envisage, and I tell you, since the INEC chairman, in collusion with the politicians, have made peaceful change impossible, violent change is coming. I am not calling for a violent change, but you see, it's becoming inevitable. You saw what happened at the INEC National Collation Center yesterday and this morning. That tells you categorically that the young ones, you know, are ready to take back their nation. I've also seen and received, you know, different results that, you know, that shows where there's been massive mutilation from Rivers State, from Akwa Ibom State, where, for instance, in Akwa Ibom, where 2 is removed from a party's a number of votes and taken to add to another party's number of votes. All right. I've seen in Rivers State where there was 221, it became and where there was 17. 221 became 021 and 17 became 217. We've seen all this mutilation. Like Obasanjo just said, the INEC chair cannot say that he's not aware of this. I am of the opinion, I have not verified, but it would seem that the entire INEC structure has been bought over, you know, by the political elite. And then you find that in the various states, you find the one who pays the piper dictating the tune. You've heard, governors have heard clips, you know, of voices, probably unverified because I'm on national television, unverified, but voices that reflect the voices of political leaders that we've heard, threatening to kill people if they don't do their bidding. Brother, I think it's time now for Nigerians. We've seen that the present crop of politicians cannot give us the country that we want. Because if, you know, aspiring to public office is about service, then you don't have to rig the process. You don't have to suppress the people. You don't beat your employer and ask your employer to employ you by force. The employer interviews you. The employer appraises you and feels that you have the capacity, the competence, the character required to run that office, and it chooses you to run that office. What the politicians are doing is forcing the employer, which is the citizens, to employ them. This will not stand. It would be massively resisted. And what he has done and what this could do, the only exciting part for me is that citizens have woken up. The youth have said they will not take this. And so I know that in the end, the truth shall stand. Otherwise, what it would do is for those who have come out to lose hope in Nigeria and turn away from everything that has to do with the electoral process in the country. And this is the point where sometimes I advocate and say, perhaps what we need is a benevolent dictatorship. Because you can look at Rwanda and see what is happening. You can look at Singapore and see what is happening. You can look at China and see the massive development. China had become so developed at some point that the government had to send people out, travel the world. In some years back, I was traveling. I went about 3-4 countries, And I had Chinese, not 2, not 3, not 10, hundreds in long buses in those nations that I went to at the summertime, being there. That's what development can bring for Nigerians with the right leadership. This crop of leadership, you can't steal the electorate's vote and think you have legitimacy. There is no legitimacy in stealing the votes of the people and then carry your shoulder about that you are a governor or that you are a president or that you are a National Assembly member. You can't do that. You lose legitimacy, you lose your relevance, you lose, you don't have, that's why they don't have connection with the people. That's why there is no connect between leadership and the citizens that they lead. Have you seen in other countries and in other climes when their president or their governor goes out, that people just voluntarily troop out to be support? Here they have to pay people. They have to pay cheerleaders to come to them because they are not the mandate of the people. They stole the mandate of the people.
All right,
so this cannot stand. Is a huge disappointment. When you look at the visage of Mahmoud Yakubu coming on to this election, you want to feel that this is the face of nobility. This is the face of dignity. But he has just shown that that face was a facade. All right, and behind that facade of seeming nobility, seeming dignity, seeming integrity, is the dark, very dark nature of avarice and crime.
Now, let me pause you there.
And this is what we will not do.
Let me pause you there, Mr. Harry, and come back to you, Victor. At this point in time, we saw what happened during the NSAS protest. And of course, with the youths already picking to the streets in protest across the different streets, we can already envision where this is headed to. Should we get to that point, do you think Nigeria can survive another NSAS protest or something far worse and more terrifying than that?
It's not about NSAS protest or going into a huge protest. What really matters is that who will bear the brunt of the protest? Because when you talk about making protests, and at the end of the day, like what happened in Akwa Ibom State here, you are not attacking your oppressors. You resort to destroying the property, your own property. You don't attack what you have out there. Nobody's confronting INEC. You leave INEC to attack your brother's properties on the street. What we're saying, like what Mr. Harry just said, the basic thing is that those we are paid to go and work for us, those we have sent to go and serve to us, should do that with dignity, should do that with integrity. See, the process, like what we're talking about now, Mahmoud is just one person. Mahmoud could not be in Zamfara. Mahmoud will not be in Rivers State. Mahmoud will not be in Anambra State. Mahmoud will not be in all the states at the same time. People are sent to this state. The question is that if these people, sometime, they will go probably collaborate with the governors in those states or the political elite in those states to do their bidding. So the only area where we strongly argue about the Mahmoud and the electoral saga is inability of INEC to transmit electronically the number of accredited voters, because that would have balanced what we are having here. Again, the youth who were active, I want to see the youth who were active to have been active in their polling unit. What do I mean by being active in their polling unit? We want to ensure that the youth who were active, there should be a reflection on how were they active in their polling unit. Did they just go to the polling unit, cast their vote and run away? Did they go to the polling unit, take photograph of what actually transpired? Because a total recollection of this result by different agents of the political party can reflect to a point where nobody will deny what transpired, where nobody can say, where we can dictate, we can know where you were rigged and where the people were not rigged out.
Now, taking a cue from what you just said, from your personal experience of taking the picture of the Beavers mission just after accreditation, I know that across the social media space, we've seen different result sheets, original result sheets of screenshots, photographs taken at the polling units posted by the Nigerian youths across Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. But INEC have come out to tell Nigerians it is only INEC. Of course, only INEC has been given the law or been approved by the law to give the election result. Now, this statement by INEC completely take away the fact that these pictures are pictures of the original sheets that were created and documented, and you see with the signatures of the respective returning officers across this polling unit. But INEC is saying this is taken by individual. And unless INEC says so, this cannot be taken, which means whether or not Nigerians have taken pictures in real life situation across the different polling units, this result cannot be accepted by INEC. In a situation where INEC says that, and Nigerians have on the other side the valid evidence of what happened across the respective polling units, how do we balance the situation?
This is what I still mean. There is a window there for redress. It's just that what has actually happened, or what is killing everybody, is that we seem to have lost so much, so much faith on the judiciary, which we also, there are a lot of reasons why that happened. What I'm saying now is that if I take original picture of the beaver as captured, because the beaver, the entire collation will reflect the picture of the PU. Now, if you take the photograph there and the accredited number of voters and you have original result sheet as taken, with time, this could be proven. This is not going to be immediate. Like what Mr. Harry just said. Look, we have had military in Nigeria. We have never had a benevolent dictator in Nigeria here. Our dictators, the bulk of our dictators are very greedy people. And with the level with corruption that has taken over this country, including the military, even if you have the military again coming to take over, you are still having the same corrupt people corrupted by the system to come and take over. That's not going to help us. What I mean is that the Nigerian youth, as a matter of, you see, there are a lot of people who are very active in the media. When they get to I saw it in my polling unit. When they get to the polling unit, they become, the moment they cast the vote and see that their party is leading, they begin to celebrate at that point. We are in this country. You don't celebrate at that point. You follow up the result and ensure the result is properly collated. Once that result is properly collated, that's where you raise the alarm. And again, you see what happened here. You have people at the state level collating result. The question is this: why do we also have the result of the unit collated at the RA, the registration area? No, that is the missing link in this particular process, and that is where the problem is coming from. Because it was expected that once we finish that election at the unit, the INEC was expected to collect that election at the RA, the registration area, which is what we refer to as the ward center. But I want to tell you, I don't know if it happened anywhere. In the entire Okobo local government where I was, there was no collation of result at the RA, at the RAC center, the registration area center. So there was nothing like that. And that is where the result is lost. Because if we have the result properly collected at the registration area, then that what is collected there will be transmitted to the local government. So that is where INEC is missing. And when I asked the INEC official why it's not collected, he said there were no electricity in those areas. With the huge amount spent, shouldn't you have provided electricity in those areas? So, Mr. Francis, that is where we've come for. But let us not become violent, because the children, like I told people, the children of those oppressing us will not bear the brunt of this violence. The same people have the ability to send their children away, while we, the same masses who voted for them, bear the brunt of whatever we have as a violent struggle.
All right, briefly, we're running out of time, but I'd like to bring to you a training that happened. Persons enlisted and those who showed up as the ad hoc officials or INEC officials at the respective polling units were told they had done the training. They woke up to discover the entirety of their list was not accredited. They were not given anything. And instead of them being called a...
Yes, Francis, it has tremendously contributed to the fraud that this election has been. I remember the YPP saying that, for instance, in Akwa Ibom State, that the PDP, even though the PDP came out to call it, a pipe dream or something to rebut it, but those are the kinds of things that the politicians do. Politicians are always looking for ways to subvert, the will and intent of the orchestrated. All right. What gave integrity to the process, and some of us sat down in your studio saying that the new sheriff in town is the Beavers. The Beavers for accreditation just wasn't it alone, but the fact that the Beavers would now transfer the results at the polling unit to the INEC server, and then that result that has been posted to the INEC server will now be taken to the collation center and it will be manually entered, so that what is manually entered will be put side by side with what has been received in the INEC server. And that is the integrity process that this election, that Mahmoud said to us. Mahmoud cannot say, Yakubu Mahmoud of INEC, the INEC chair, cannot, look, he sits there, he cannot be everywhere at the same time. But as a manager, there are indices. Once you upload the result, where is the result that you collated? Then you match it with what came, organically, let me use the word organically from the polling unit. It means for the two states, meaning they have the same polling unit, they have the same voters accredited in the same polling units, having the same. This was a.
All right, sorry, quite a lot on eyes on issues. And yes, Nigerians, it's been a wonderful time being here with you. Africa has been a wonderful time. The whole world is looking at Nigeria right about now, and it's time for us to correct the ills that has been dented on our image as a nation. And the one way to do that is for INEC to ensure that election is free, fair, credible, and conclusive. And everything that needs to be done for that to happen ought to be done and should be done. My name is Francis Aided, and it's been a wonderful time being here with you on Eyes on Issues. Let's do this again on Friday, same time, same station. From me to you, is bye-bye for now.